Wish. I never actually got to watch it, but I have heard about it.
And this is the thanks I get.
Yeah, I did hear about it. But other than King Magnifico's performance, I don't know much at all about the movie. I did see people criticising it, but since I haven't watched it myself, I don't have much of an opinion. I haven't been Disney's biggest lover or analyzer for a while now. The last thing I watched was Luca, not even actually a Disney release, it's a Pixar one, which I enjoyed, but no other title that they released really made me want to watch it. And so, as a casual viewer, I'll note everything that I noticed, what I liked and didn't, but I won't be going too deep into it, since what I want is to see how does this movie perform when casually watched as any ordinary person would. I will rate its visuals, comedy and rewatchability and give my overall score. Well then, let's get to it. As the movie starts, we meet Asha, and my first thought was that she reminded me of someone, that being Rapunzel. They both have similar ways of expressing themselves, this slightly awkward behaviour. I do like her design. It does however feel like it's been done already. The new animation used to look slightly odd. When watching, I tried to pinpoint what exactly felt weird about it. I concluded that it feels as if someone animated the whole movie as any other Disney release, then at the end put one of those filters that make a picture feel like a drawing. Not sure if I like it or not. It seems like Disney wanted to go along with the trend started with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I believe that was the first or one of the first animations done in this style, but they didn't know how exactly to go about it. The colours seem a bit faded, and I couldn't help but wish they were livelier. We also get to meet some of the side cast, and Simon, the quieter guy amongst the group, really reminded me of Christopher and Hans, as if someone mixed them together and Simon was the result. Maybe it's just me, but at times newer Disney characters seem very similar to each other, even a bit too similar. I don't believe that to have been the case in some of the older productions. Characters felt slightly more unique, both in personality and design. Take for example Mulan and Moana. I could really point out the differences between the two, but I'm not sure if I would be able to do so as much between Moana and Asha. Moving forward, Asha has a meeting with the King of Rosa, and I would like to just say that despite what I said about the characters and their design, I do genuinely like the King's and Queen's design. They were by far my favourite ones, the Queen feeling really medieval, and King Magnifico really pulled off the grey hair. As we meet him, he is quite quickly established to not completely agree with our protagonist's views, and they both exchange their arguments. I actually found myself siding with Magnifico to a certain extent. Everything he said seemed perfectly rational, and Asha started to feel a little bit whiny. But of course, children are the target audience for this, so I decided to just go along with what she was saying. At this point, I started to wonder if there was more to come and add to the plot, because so far it felt a little bit empty and perhaps too straightforward. I mean, he's got everyone's wishes, let's steal them and give them back. All in the first 15 minutes, I begin to wonder whether after those wishes are given back, it might turn out that someone's wish was in fact dangerous, and Asha and Magnifico would find a middle ground somewhere and fight together against it. But as we move forward, the plot does in fact not thicken. The wish ceremony then takes place, and Magnifico chooses the person that will have their wish granted, that being a safe and not threatening one. And to be honest, if I was in Magnifico's position, being responsible for something like that, I would have done the same thing. Choosing the safer options and not potentially threatening ones. It just sort of makes sense. And so I'm having trouble sympathizing with Asha. There have been 3 songs by this point, and none really hit the way the other Disney songs do, unfortunately. We get to see Star, which suddenly caused the skies to lit up, and Asha somehow summoned it with her song. I'm not gonna lie, it's actually quite cute. If I saw a plush of it somewhere, I would probably get it. The goat then also starts to talk with this relatively low voice, which I get is supposed to be funny. Maybe I'm just too old for that. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. Then they start to sing again. King Magnifico becomes increasingly frustrated at the unknown threat that the little star could be posing. We get to see the relationship between the king and the queen, which I really enjoyed seeing. The They appeared really close, with King and Maya knowing exactly how to keep Magnifico in check. More characters than make an appearance, none of them being extremely memorable so far. When I was watching films which were in theory similar, like Tangled, it felt like every scene was more significant in one way or another. For example, when Rapunzel and Flynn visited the tavern, the characters introduced were really distinct and engaging, despite their part in the movie being limited. The presence is like a core memory for me. It was really fun seeing them. So far, the Wishes side characters did not manage to do that, and they were actually quite forgettable, as even now I had trouble recalling any of them except Simon because of his resemblance to the other characters who I knew already. I just watched the movie, so I can't imagine remembering much of them in a few months. At this point, the animation was becoming slightly tiring to my eyes. The lines seemed blurry, and the corners of the characters seemed to be blending with the environment. It almost felt as if there wasn't a spot that the creators wanted us to focus on. Other than that, I must say, being now halfway through the film, I was actually getting quite bored, and I was slowly starting to check how much of the movie was still left to watch. I finally got to Magnifico's performance, which was, well, memorable. I mean, I did catch myself humming it later on, so they get the point with that. As for whether I enjoyed it is a different story. The way in which this song is written and the movie itself so far does actually feel as if it was maybe AI generated. I've seen some people mention that, and now watching it, I start to understand it. Moving forward, Magnifico lets himself get possessed to a certain extent by the forbidden magic coming from the book he swore to never use. From this point onwards, I'm not sure how much of his wrongdoing is actually his. Although he chose to use this power, I feel like it's unclear to what extent has it taken over him. It took him basically a second to do a 180. Would he do things like crushing Asha's mother Wish after finding out that she stole her grandpa's one back, had it not been for its influence? As he starts to absorb more power from crushing people's wishes, Amaya catches him in the act. She mentions how they built this kingdom together, giving us some context to their relationship. This, however, does not help to bring his normal self back. During another wish ceremony which happens, Simon turns out to be the traitor who told Magnifico about Asha, and all of a sudden he reminds me much more of Hans. Well, at least I remember him in one way or another. The whole switch of the movie feels like it happens very quickly, and like there wasn't enough build up to it, and so as it happens I don't find myself being greatly invested. I hate to keep comparing it, but the older Disney productions did not have this issue and were simply paced better. But regardless, the Queen then joins the squad to try to take Magnifico down. The group tries to free the wishes whilst making a few unfunny jokes, but Magnifico was prepared for it. He then fully embraces the role of the villain, which I appreciate because he really fits the role quite well, despite it being hard to determine how much of it can we actually attribute to him or the forbidden magic's influence. He drops the star and absorbs its magic, and as I was watching it, I realized I didn't really feel much of an emotion seeing it. The star has actually been shown quite a lot, but it doesn't speak. The only thing it did was give Asha a magic stick. It's just small and cute, but that's not enough for me to cry over it, which is a shame. In Rapunzel, the chameleon she had did not speak either, but from the moment he was introduced, I already loved and cared for him, and he was definitely more of a sidekick than the star, which in this movie is the main motive for everything that's happened, and so its whole presence was quite underwhelming. Same goes for Asha. She might have stolen one wish, but other than that and running away from Simon, there isn't that much to it. As everything goes down and Magnifico supposedly wins, there is one thing she starts doing. She starts to sing, and everyone else does as well. The climax feels like it lasts 2 minutes and everything gets solved by one chorus of a song. Talk about underwhelming. Simon apologizes, and then we get to see where Magnifico ended up, which was a tiny mirror hanging thingy. Queen Amaya picks him up with a smug face, Magnifico being quite distraught. Obviously, it is unclear whether he was back to his old self by now, but either way, she does not hesitate nor feel any emotion towards him. And just like that, tells someone to hang his little prison in a dungeon, all happy and giddy. And like, they were married. They built the kingdom together, as I mentioned, went through so much, and just like that, she doesn't care about him at all and basically acts like good riddance. So from this point onwards, I do not like Queen Amaya as much. Or the message this sends as a whole, that basically a person making one mistake is enough to ditch and give up on them. There wasn't any indication that she would try to get back to him and perhaps try to lift the influence of the forbidden magic off of him at all, or anything of the kind either. Anyways, Asha then gets a wand from the star, and the star starts to fly around her, dropping some magic dust on her. And I thought we'd get one of those super satisfying transitions into a new dress or outfit for her, but no, she just has glitter all over. And I think they indicate that she becomes fairy godmother. If that is the case, that's actually pretty nice. I do wish there was more to that story though. In conclusion, I had a mediocre time watching this and was generally disappointed. I thought that watching it more casually would mean I wouldn't be picking on things as much and just be able to enjoy simple little Disney animation, but watching it, just too many things didn't click for me. Okay, moving forward to my ratings. Visuals, as I've mentioned before, weren't really it. The concept was nice, the execution made the whole thing look unfinished and unexciting. Hopefully they will learn from that and improve, because I do appreciate them going through with a new style. Innovative ideas are what I expect from a big studio like Disney, which for many years pioneered with all things related to animation. And so, the animation gets a whopping 4 out of 10. Now, comedy and humour. Throughout the movie, they pull a number of jokes that really feel childish and are just generally not that funny. For example, when a bear helped Asha with Simon, who was chasing her, the bear tells Simon that it's not him he should be afraid of, and then a bunch of rabbits come out. I get what's supposed to be funny, and maybe in 2013 it would be, but here it feels a bit forced. And that's basically the case with most of the jokes. The movie is silly at times, which is not bad, but in general, I have not actually laughed once. And maybe I'm just being grumpy, but for humour and comedy, it gets a 3.5 out of 10. Now for rewatchability, I have now watched the film twice. And the second time I was mostly skimming through for this little video, but I still count it. And I'm not planning on rewatching it anytime soon. Good movies have a tendency to make rewatches worth it. You notice things you didn't notice before, or the good parts hit just as good as they did on the first watch. Which being really quite simple, and the good parts not being all that good, does not manage to do that as much. Because I like Magnifico, except for his one song, I would be willing to watch some of his parts a few more times, as these I enjoyed the most. I feel like he had much more potential, and had it been a different film, this potential could have been explored more. Alas, it was not. And for rewatchability, which gets 4 out of 10. This gives us the total score of 3.83 out of 10 for the experience with Wish of a casual viewer. And because I was a bit more critical than I thought I'd be, it's probably fair to just round it up to 4 out of 10 for the minimum that any ordinary person can expect the experience of watching Wish to be. Alright, that about sums it up. Do let me know if I missed anything at all, if you agree or disagree. If you can somehow convince me that this film is better than what I rated it as, I'd actually be quite happy. I do not want these movies to be bad. I don't want to let my slight recent bias towards Disney to sway my opinions too much either. Well then, thanks for watching and take care.